did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me. You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tomic's... veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
And her name is Minerva Oaks. She's the flower of the flower coach.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Hey everybody, it's once again time for Aaron Live. I am still Aaron Live, and of course we have not changed the name of the show yet. So here we are. I'm seeing people in the chat reminded me, I think Andy Smith's having a closeout sometime this evening, a 30-day closeout, I think, for Lilith. So be aware of that. If you guys haven't backed Andy's campaign, I don't have a link, but I'm sure someone will post it in the chat to go and support Andy's book, Lilith. And so he's having his 30-day closeout sometime this evening, perhaps right now, and I was completely unaware of it. So Andy, if I'm streaming against you, my apologies, but the show must go on. So anyway, there you go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I missed last week because we now have a new grandbaby. So that's our second. And Shelly and I had to watch our grandson while his little sister was being born. And so we were actually down at my son and daughter-in-law's house for Shelly was there for 5 days. I was there for 3 nights and 4 days. And so I was just completely shut off from social media and anything else. We were just doing that. And I, for some reason, was under the strange impression that I would make it home Sunday night to do the show, and I absolutely did not. And that's why we didn't do the show. But everybody's healthy, everybody's fine, everything's great. And so here I am, back again. So if I'm a little out of touch with what's been going on or what is going on in our ranks on, the social media platforms and so forth and so on, and that's because I just have been tapped out, but I'm tapping back in, and here I am. And thank you guys all for joining me. Lots to talk about today, lots of stuff. And another, let's face it, it's going to be another art heavy show, because what else would I talk about? Next week, though, check this out. Amity Island, baby. I have coerced my daughter into agreeing to go watch Jaws on the big screen with me later this evening after the show. So we're going to be doing that for the 50th anniversary. And next week's show will be very Jaws-centric as I talk about why Jaws is maybe the greatest movie ever made. But anyway, but that is a discussion for next week, not now. Let's see who's here, if I dare. Sequential Treasures is here. JS, NPC Oasis, Creative Phase there. Past Master Dan, he says, going early. Hail chat and hit the like. You can thank me later. Going early is 3:30 early. 3:30 is our regular time, isn't it? No, maybe I'm confused. Stealth X5 is here, says, yo. Thanks for joining us, Stealth. Inconsequential Artist is here. An excellent endeavor you have in store for us, showcasing the great and mighty son of Simon. Yeah. We'll be doing Walter Simonson's Covers. Walter, if you're watching, got nothing but positive things to say. So put on the recorder. Inconsequential Artist, I need you to contact me either by email, aaron@aaronlopresti.com, or one of my social media message me with your address, because sadly, Inconsequential Artist was the runner-up as the high bidder from Graybeards this past week. The high bidder, or the highest amount of super chats, gets to pick the next poll we do, and he was beat out by Stealth. But he did contribute so much. I felt bad that both of them contributed so much. And yes, Stealth won the privilege of picking out our poll, but I kind of felt like, you know what? Let's sweeten the pot a little bit for these guys for supporting the show in such a big measure. So each of them getting an original piece of art to go with their over $200 bids to get to do the poll. So I need Inconsequential Artists. I need your mailing address so I can ship you out promised artwork. Actually, I've got it. What do I got right here? Since Stealth won the poll on Graybeards, or won the contest, he chose to go with Optimus Primal, which is fine because this is going to be rare because I'll never draw this again. And but then as a secondary prize, a consolation prize, Inconsequential gets this Nova, which I drew on the show. It was my third drawing on the show. Was not feeling it on the last show. Started over multiple times, but finally was able to get this done. So those two pieces of artwork are going out to those guys. And again, thank you guys for supporting the show. Spambot is here. Bill Maxwell, Pantheon, Randy Howell, all the way from Canada. Marcus Killigroup, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge. JP Roca is here. Eric N. Boyd, not to be confused with any other Eric Boyd. Did I say JS? Well, there he is. Stealth X5, another $2, says hello. Thank you, Stealth. Appreciate it very much. There's Michelle Bowers. Hello, Michelle. We haven't seen you in a bit. Why don't you have like an icon with your sword? That's what I want to see. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. JP Roca throwing in $4.99 and has absolutely nothing to say for it, but I do appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see who else is hanging around here. Oh, Corey Landis wants to know, where are Bigfoot and Sasquatch? Find them and bring them to me. Bring them to me now. I can only bring you what video evidence I can find out there. It's up to you to decide. Despite my cynical commentary, it's up to you to decide whether Bigfoot is out there or not. Pity Moss here, though. And let's see here. JP Roca for $9.99. This time he has something to say. I found the original sketchbook you sent. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you found it. I'm glad that I remembered to send it to you. I don't know if we're talking about the very, very first sketchbook, or if I don't know which one you're talking about. I can't remember, but I'm glad that you found it because I'm assuming you paid something for it. So I'm glad that you actually received it. Yeah, let's see. Corey Landis says, it's about time good people start reproducing. Indeed, I agree with that. Scott Christy Jones is here. Says, hey, all from across the pond. Hope you're all well. We haven't seen Scott Christy Jones for a while, but I do remember the icon of him standing out in front of that doorway there. Obviously in London, or England. I shouldn't say London, but England. Someplace in England. Creative Face says, being out of touch is part of being old. So don't worry about it. I won't worry about it if you don't worry about this. That's for Creative Faye. Okay. Leg kick for $5. Thank you, Leg kick. Did you order the McFarlane Jaws figure? I guess you could call it. We're going to be talking about that later in the show. So I will get your guys' opinion actually on that. Hugh and Son is here. Gemini Dragon says, love the Nova. Thank you, Gemini. Appreciate that. Eric Boyd, he says he's getting the Nova art. That is super. One could say that it's supernova. I thought I only had to put up with stuff like that on Graybeards. Michelle Bauer says, I can do a sword picture for you. That's what we want to see, Michelle. We want to see you brandishing a weapon. Bibliobob, who comes and goes, but there he is. Used to be Kelsey Shannon before Kelsey disappeared. Used to be Kelsey's favorite chatter was Bibliobob, but and the only one who could say it. But I have since learned to pick up the mantle since we always hope springs eternal that Kelsey will return to us one day, but you never know. You just don't know about these things. So, Taskmaster, dang, you were on time. What does that even mean? I'm always on time, except when I'm not. Spaceman is here. Matthew Muma joining us. Thank you, Matthew. All right, Michelle Bowers is promising a sword, a picture of her being deadly. So we're going to be looking forward to that in the very near future. All right, guys. So Scott is saying, rest in peace, Kelsey. He's with the Angels now, probably. I hope not. Someone, see, this is the thing. Somebody told me that he appeared on somebody's YouTube show like about a month ago. And I'm like, what? Kelsey, if you're out there, why are you dissing me like this? Even if you don't want to do Graybeards regularly, come back as a guest once in a while. Reach out to us. Say hello. Anyway, I miss Kelsey. We love Kelsey. And hopefully that someday he'll return. Anyway, okay. So, yeah. Let's get this thing moving. What am I looking for? There it is. Let's do a little quick public service announcement. It's amazing how many people do not like and don't even subscribe. Now I try now, and here I'm asking for it. And yet I'll watch YouTube videos and not like it and not hit the subscribe to a channel I watch. And I'm like, I'm just as bad as everybody else. I need to be, because you get distracted and you don't even think about it. But it is helpful for some reason. And I would appreciate it if you would do that. Like and subscribe. That's what we're looking for. But now, after you've done that, let's get our energy levels up.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I snuck into my 94-year-old mother, and I say 94-year-old mother's room because she turned 94 yesterday. And we took her down to see the new baby and to play with her great-grandson, who she's only seen, I think, once or twice. And she actually got like all day to play with him and stuff. You can imagine a 94-year-old woman chasing around a 19-month-year-old, but she was doing that. And she was just like glowing. This was like the best birthday ever. So it was just a great day. We had pizza. We got donuts in the morning, but I haven't got her cake yet. She likes Cheesecake Factory. So we're trying to figure out a time where I can go to Cheesecake Factory, get her big slice of 7-layer decadent chocolate cake, but that'll either be tonight or tomorrow. But anyway, so I snuck into her room and stole these. Now these are mini Keebler cookies. If you see right there, it's magically made with Keebler fudge. So you can read into that whatever you like. I'm just going to say they're bite size and delicious. 280 calories per bag. We're eating a bag of cookies and it's only 280 calories. That doesn't seem like that's horrific to me. Maybe it is, but I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. There we go. A lot of people wishing happy birthday to Grandma Lopresti. I will pass that on to her. Thank you very much. Her and to a welfare check on Kelsey. I think Ethan did a welfare check on Kelsey, and I don't know if he was irritated or not, but he was okay. And so Kelsey's like, he just drops out, man. And so anyway. Oh, Spambot says that show was actually recorded a few years earlier. Okay, so I don't feel bad then that he's like going on other people's show and stiffing me. Okay, that's good. Gary, be quiet. There's no time for that now. This will go down in history of one of Gary's many. Well, you can judge whether it was successful or not on Graybirds. So if you haven't watched last week's show of Graybirds, you should do that. It was a pretty crazy show, but a lot of fun, as it normally is. So go there and check that out. And then you be the judge of how funny you think Gary actually is. Let's see here. A lot of people expressing love for Keebler, and a lot of people saying happy birthday to my mom. Appreciate that very much. And I will tell her. I always tell her that you guys appreciate the great work she does in bagging and boarding our comic books. And so I will let her know that you guys were expressing birthday wishes to her. JP Roker for another $4.99. The Comic Con ash can. The first one was lost in the mail. You sent me a second one for free. Thank you again. Oh, you got it, man. That does happen. The Postal Service is a bit untrustworthy at times. Victor, who always has something to say. I don't know if it's good or not, but he always does have something to say. Excess Aaron chocolate cookies. Next, your pool boy will be feeding you them. I actually have to have a pool first before I get a pool boy, but I don't know if that will ever be a reality. I didn't have a pool. I couldn't afford a pool when we lived in Florida, which is the one place you probably want a pool. So in Oregon, you really don't want a pool. You spend more time cleaning it than you do using it. So I don't know if we move back to Florida or, someplace hot, maybe, like Arizona or someplace like that. Yeah, then I might get a pool. Okay. So while I take a few more hits off this Keebler bag, let's take a look at what Frank Frazetta has to offer us today, shall we? Better close that bag. I'm closing out on 280 calories. I really like that piece, but I'm disappointed in a couple of things. One, you couldn't come up with a better name than Warrior with a ball and chain. Come on. But what I do like about that painting is all the subtle color variances in the flesh tone. The Frazetta brings in just rando colors. I mean, that's the fine art aspect of Frazetta's work that normally you look at as commercial illustration, but he does some of that unexpected stuff that is uniquely Frazetta, which kind of pushes him into that fine arts realm a little bit. Sort of like Basil Gogos, who used to do the covers for Famous Monsters, the magazine. A lot of people would argue that he is a fine artist more than a commercial illustrator, but that's all subjective pretentiousness. Shelley got me this big, like, what do you call these things? I don't know, but it's got water in it and it holds a lot. The other thing about that painting was the guy's got like way too many abs, but I don't care. It still looks cool. So again, it's always not about accuracy. It's about the cool factor, which is, you can get me on a soapbox, start talking about that again. I often mull these things about in my mind, about why certain artists are popular, more popular than other artists that are just as talented. And it always comes down to the uniqueness of their approach. And that generally is what separates people. And I think there's two kinds of artists. There's the very conventional type, me, guys like John Buscema, I would consider very conventional. But then guys like Barry Smith or Arthur Adams or, whatever, Bernie Wrightson, Frazetta, are very unconventional in their approach. So you see their work and you don't really see anything that looks like that. And so that becomes more interesting than whether or not that leg is too long or it's too short, or, the eyes are too big or they're too small. So those are, thinking outside the box. When you can think outside the box and have talent to back it up, that's when you become a superstar. And I wish I was an out-of-the-box thinker, but I am not. And I've accepted that. But I do try sometimes to do something unusual. And it feels weird and unnatural. So it'd be really hard for me to kind of like develop a new style that was really sort of unique and weird, because it wouldn't flow easily for me. I fall back into convention too easily. But anyway, what are you going to do? Here I am, and there you go. Let's see here. Well, Past Master General is correct. Adding a cigarette to all of your characters it's very avant-garde, and I think so. I do have that going for me, which is nice, as they say, right? Okay, so normally I would do a commercial break here, but I'm not going to. We're going to jump right into the program and see what happens. Mixing it up just a little bit. Let's start off with Who's This Guy? Now, if you don't know who Victor C. Anderson is, don't feel bad, because I didn't either. Every week when I look for a commercial artist to sort of profile, I go through my, I go through a lot of things, but one of my reference guides is this wonderful book here called The Illustrator in America from 1880 to 1980. And so there's tons and tons and tons, as you can imagine, of artists listed in here. Some of them I like, some of them I'm like, meh. But I find people that I wasn't necessarily aware of, and I think, oh, I like this guy's stuff. Let's share it on the show so everybody can have a chance to be aware of their artwork and judge for yourself. So let's take a look at some of Vic's artwork, shall we? And get a little bit of a biographical history of him. Victor C. Anderson was born 1882, died 1937. So he wasn't very old. That was what I think 55 years old when he passed away. That's kind of young. I've left that in the dust. Now, he was an American painter and illustrator, obviously, primarily known for his rural life scenes and landscapes, whose works were featured in Life and other magazines of the early 20th century. and who produced a wide range of illustrations for books as well as oil paintings. You know, there's a key phrase in that paragraph. Well, actually, it's just one big sentence, but featured in Life and other magazines of the early 20th century. Man, do I miss magazines. If I could trade the internet for magazines, I would do it. There's so, as an artist anyway, and someone who appreciates art, God, there was so much opportunity back then to do illustration work, and so much great work was done. And people don't read anymore. They just they watch YouTube for their programming, which is better than most TV programs. So at least I'll give you that. But yeah, I do miss these magazines. Look at this piece right here. Just nice. Look at the lighting in there. I love that little shaft of light beaming through there right here and down here, which if you look at it closely, it's just one massive blob of like yellow ochre with white on it, you know, and yet it works. The drawing is really, really nice. Yeah, the good old days. I'm not thinking, for as far as this girl is jumping, that pile of hay is deep enough. I think she's going to get hurt. Because she jumped from here down into this little pile. I think she needs to be jumping into this pile over here. But anyway, good fun, good nostalgia. That's what we like to celebrate on this channel. Look at the colors on this one right here. I noticed he did a lot of circus paintings, which I'm not a big circus guy necessarily, but I found this one particularly interesting with the white of the horses and that deep blue sky back there. Let's read a little bit more about Vic. Like his father, Frank Anderson, who was one of the original Hudson River School guys. Now, the Hudson River School was not an actual school you went and attended. It was a school of thought, an approach to painting. And it was landscapes and things like that. And so his father, Frank Anderson, was one of the Hudson River School guys. And then, of course, Victor kept the tradition up. Now, Victor drew and painted from an early age, eventually entering the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. His favorite subjects were scenes of homespun rural life and landscapes of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and were popular nationally. For many years, he lived and had his studio at 195 Battle Avenue, White Plains, New York. Isn't White Plains, you know, when you would like order something in a comic book or something, and wasn't the address always White Plains, New York? Like everybody lived in White Plains, New York when you went to buy something. That was the P.O. Box, blah, 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 White Plains, New York. I don't know what it is about White Plains. I've never been there, but there you go. For many years, he lived and had his okay, blah, blah, blah. So he died in White Plains in 1937. And he did exhibit in the National Academy. So his daughter, Joan Howe, interesting. She had a separate last name. I wonder why. 1915 to 2005, so she lived considerably longer than her dad did, was a well-known watercolor artist who lived and worked in both Albany, New York and Marathon Bay, Florida. So she worked in Albany, New York, and I'm guessing retired to Florida like most New Yorkers do. That's really all I've got on Frank. He's probably what you would consider one of the lesser commercial artists of the time. That's kind of like saying like in the Old Testament, they have the lesser prophets. And the only reason they say that, not that they weren't important, but they did a smaller body of work than the major prophets, or they call them minor prophets, but the same thing. So this, again, is probably speaking more to his exposure than anything else when I say he was one of the lesser illustrators, and certainly one that a lot of people, including myself, had not heard of, and yet was really, really good. And I really like this one. This, to me, screams Hudson River School, if you're familiar. But I really like this. You know, when you see black and white films back in the 50s and they shoot a night scene, but it's like dark, but at the same time, everything is well lit, because they used to shoot what was called day for night. And they would shoot nighttime scenes during the day, right? Especially low budget, because it was easier to light and to deal with. And so what you did was put a series of filters on the lens, and that would make it seem like it would like darken the shadows, but you wouldn't lose the light. So you had this kind of feel like everything looked like it was moonlight. It was super well lit, but it felt like it was moonlight as opposed to sunlight. And that's what this painting feels like to me. It's a nighttime painting, but you can see everything. And so it has that kind of nighttime feel, but yet it's very well, do I say articulated? So there you go. Randy Howell says this painting needs a werewolf. Yeah, probably. That would pump it up a little bit. Creative Face says, oh, I'd probably paint a lot of circus stuff too. We took our son, they had like do they still have circuses? Because when Josh was little, which would have been 25, 26 years ago, the circus did come to town, literally, and we did take him to it, and we all rode on an elephant around the little circle arena thing there. That was kind of fun. But then he had like hair. He was very dirty, and he had hair coming out of his head, like little, like I do, like just a little bit of hair up here. And so it was kind of fun. But those are I never went as a kid. I don't believe ever. My dad used to take us to rodeos all the time, but never to the circus. Okay, look at this. I find this illustration really nice here because it's very stark with this gray background, and yet this really vibrant orange dress on this woman. It's interesting what the purpose of this would be with no background like that. And yet it really, really stands out. It's very, very nice. I love the orange in the dress because you know how guys feel about orange. I love orange. And that orange is up there in her cheeks and in her lips as well, and a little bit in her hair. So if you look real closely, you see you've got the orange dress. He carries it up here to her lips, cheeks. There's some of that orange up here in the hair and here in the shadow a little bit. Again, you bring those colors in to sort of harmonize, help harmonize the painting, like this green right here. There's a green on her dress. I don't know what that is, a flower or something maybe. There's also a little bit of that green right up in here, right up in here. So a little bit right there. Very nice piece. Now this, I really like this piece. This reminds me of, why can't I ever think of that guy's name? Wait, what happened? How come that didn't work? Let's try that again. Oh, come on. What's that guy's name? You guys know who the painter is. I'm thinking of Pass Faster Than says Rob Liefeld, chair legs. Hang on a second, because this is driving me nuts. I don't know why I can't think of his name, because I know it. It may be, that crazy old age thing again. Where is he? Used to all those really beautiful luminescent colors around the turn of the century. Oh, here it is. Maxfield Parrish. That's what this reminds me of. This reminds me of Maxfield Parrish, don't you think? There it is, Gary New. Doesn't this kind of have a Parrish vibe to it? It's not quite as, the color isn't as brilliant, but it does have that kind of soft Parrish vibe. So that kind of stuck out to me. I really like that one. This is really interesting, only because the subject matter. I mean, clearly this was an illustration for a story in a magazine, but you basically have this squirrel running along this fence. I love the perspective on the fence, the depth that this piece has. It's really it's a very simple painting. You've got the fence is this kind of cool color. The squirrel is warm, obviously. The background sky is warm, except when you get down here, it gets a little cooler. These bushes or trees, whatever, are very nondescript. Really just shapes. Same with the grass. You got a little bit of color in there, but there's no real delineation. So your focus is all right here on Mr. Squirrel. But I just think for as a composition, it's really, really cool and interesting. I probably would have made, again, but I'm thinking like a comic book artist, not an illustrator, that I made the squirrel like much bigger, but it's still isolated and stands out there. And this, I mean, as silly as it might sound, I would hang this on my wall. I really like this. What does that say? Breadwinner's number. Oh, it's Life magazine, but it can't be a cover. It's got to be an illustration from inside Life magazine. 1911, April 27th, 1911. Are you kidding me? Wow. I really like this one. This one has sort of a Rockwell feel to it. Not as good as Rockwell, but I thought these two kids obviously just beat the crap out of each other in a fight, and the little girls are helping the one kid on the ground. But look at their shirts are all torn and blood all over the place. That's pretty good. He says, gee, the victor, he says, gee, all of us was lucky. He was, I can't read the bottom of that. It doesn't, this is like one of your guys' obscure chats that I can't, it says, the victor down here, it says, gee, he all us was lucky. He all us was lucky. Or he's all, whatever. But anyway, I love this. It's got this, his kid, certainly, he's got a black eye. He's got blood running down his face. They just beat the crap out of, or they just got the crap beat out of him or whatever. But the good old days, right, where no one was going to pull a gun on you, just beat each other up. Anyway, it's got a lot of character too. I like it. Now check this out. Look at this black and white illustration. This gets back to that sort of Maxwell Parrish feel, or some people had suggested Winsor McKay a little bit. I love this. I love the posture of this guy, the bald head with the hair combed over. You got the fire truck in the background, right? And all the kids running, I'm sure, to see the fire. Well, this kid's getting his hair cut. He's got the hair down here on the blanket and everything. I love the kid's expression. I just think it's a great drawing right there. And that's 1920 from Life magazine again. But look at how, soft. And you can see where, where Charles Vess and more contemporary guys that sort of work in this sort of style, what their influences were. Yeah, that comb over, man. My dad used to do that for a while till we finally said, dude, just shave your head, man. What are you doing? But I just love, that's when you guys can really draw, is when you can really capture the weight of a figure, and you really kind of has a three-dimensional feel, doesn't feel stiff or stilted at all. Really nice. Look at this beautiful landscape right here. Again, very painterly. You can see the brush streaks in the sky up here. And even back down here where this is kind of, I guess, marshy. Because you're getting some reflection here of these bushes or whatever in what I assume is water, but how it's all, it's very yellow and stuff, where the sky is blue, then this comes down here. So what you're really dealing with here is probably a yellow-violet complementary, because you can see the violet in here, and you can see it up in here, the purple, mixed in with the blue. And then, of course, you have the yellow down here, but it's not straight yellow. It's more of a yellow ochre, it looks like, or ochre, or however you pronounce that. Really love the color scheme on this, and real pleasant and interesting. See, I think making landscapes interesting is even harder, because so many people do landscapes and they do them really well, but it's like, that's not necessarily always the point. And making it interesting to look at beyond the beauty of just whatever you're painting. And I think that's what we have going on here. Excuse me. Finally, one more. I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to show Santa Claus. And so there's Santa in his sleigh. You got the reindeer pulling him up. I wish this was bigger, or higher resolution, I mean. But I love it. I guess we're looking at this as kind of like the end of the day, right? So Santa's back, heading home. You can see the sun rising. So he's just delivered all the packages, all the Christmas presents, and he's just like knocked out here with his legs up in his sleigh. I love this piece too, but I'm a big Santa Claus fan, so that may have something to do with it. But composition's really nice. The lighting's really nice. The color's very understated, and yet it's very effective. 1911 as well. Again, I don't know. That's not a Life magazine cover, because surely this would not be the Life logo up here for the magazine cover. It has to be from an illustration inside the magazine, but just great. I'd buy this if I had any money. No, that's is that 1911 or 1915 maybe is what that says. December 2nd, 1915, I think. Man, that's like World War I. That's just crazy. So there you go. All right, fabulous. There you go. That's I wish I had more information on his life to give you, but I do not. But again, you can Google any of these guys that we do on this show, look up their work, and see for yourself if it's something you really dig or not. But I think it's the more we get into the electronic age, the more we lose sight of some of these classic illustrators. And I think that's a bummer. So let's just keep it going. James Wilson says that's the logo for the 1911 cover. No kidding. Wow. They need a better designer coming up with a logo for the magazine. I would have thought the name would have been a little bit more prominent. Pity Ma having the money. That's all our problem, isn't it, though? Okay. All right. So I'm going to do like a new series of stuff. I don't really have an intro for it, so we're gonna run this intro instead, and then I'll explain to you what I'm gonna do. Yes, it's this is from my flat files, but at the same time, I kind of want to go back and look at some of the stuff that I've done, and review it, I guess, or point it out to maybe some of you who are unfamiliar with it, or stuff I like and why do I like it, or maybe stuff I hate. I probably won't show stuff I hate, because why would I make myself purposely look bad on my own show? But as I was doing The Landing Party, which is a Star Trek show that I do with Graham Nolan and Ron Garney, and that's Anna, the Star Wars girl, Ron asked me on the show, he goes, well, what work of yours do you think is the best work you've done? And I said, out of all the stuff that people are aware of, I would probably say Planet Hulk. But if I said the stuff that I really believed was the best work I'd done, it was in the Garbage Man series that I did for DC, which then returned to me and then collected in a paperback collection and published through Dark Horse, and which is still available through me if you are interested after you see what I'm about to show you. But it is kind of unfortunate to have like your best work being in a project that no one's ever seen, other than the people that have, I have talked into buying the trade paperback. But the thing with Garbage Man, and I had Matt Ryan inking me, who is, probably my best inker. And I've worked with some good ones, though. I know Gary Martin's in the chat and others that did fine work over me. But I've always said that Matt is the closest to inking the way I would ink if I had the patience to ink myself the way that I wanted to ink myself. But I usually don't. I get very impatient. So we're going to take a look at a few pages here. And one of the things that I was able to do, and I had this conversation with Howard Chaykin years ago, talking about visual storytelling and stuff. And he was going through all these different things. And I said, and I stopped him and I said, well, Howard, everything you're describing can only be done if you're also writing the script. And he basically agreed with me. He said, yeah, you're right. Because if you have someone else handing you a script, you can do some jogging of stuff around visually, but you're kind of beholden to that script. When you're writing it yourself, you can set pages up and stories up to do storytelling the way you want to do it if you have like ideas and things like that. And I spent a lot of time on these Garbage Man pages, mainly because I didn't have a real deadline for most of the time I was working on it. These were like, when you got it done, then they were going to put it in this anthology book that no one would read and publish it. So this is the opening page to the very first issue. And I did a very Eisner or Stranko-y thing by working the title of the story into the artwork. And again, you can do that, but it requires extra work, extra thought, things like that. And where a lot of times when you're doing monthly books, you don't have the time to sit there and be an artistic genius or storyteller, or even attempt to be. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing. In fact, someone published, I think Donald DeLay published a quote or tweeted a quote that apparently Sean Gordon Murphy had said, basically that if you're doing 5 pages a week, you're only doing like, 30% of the quality you're capable of or whatever, which I thought was kind of insulting. But at the same time, there's some truth to that, because you do have a limited amount of time, but it's unfair for someone who's never met a deadline in his life, like Sean probably fits that category, and to criticize people that all they do for their careers meet deadlines. And it's the people that meet the deadlines are the ones that hold the industry up. If no one was meeting deadline, the whole industry would collapse because there'd be no product. People get pissed and walk away. So it's the monthly artists, the John Buscema's, maybe they don't get the recognition that the Barry Smiths got, but they're the guys that are actually upholding the entire industry and don't get the respect they deserve for doing that. And yeah, there's limitations on what you can do when you're meeting a deadline, but there's a lot of good work done on monthly books. There's a lot of crappy work done too, I'm not going to lie, but it's an industry that ignores, for the greater part, the contribution of the monthly artist and celebrates the guy who turns in art whenever he feels like it. And it's usually their art is better looking because they've spent way more time on it. All that to say this, I spent a good deal of time on this that I didn't normally get to spend on my monthlies. And so there's some more thought that went into this. And I want to point out something here, just from a storytelling aspect. The second panel here with the crows digging through the garbage. You have a fence back here, right? Now look what happened here. I dropped the fence in the background out. Now, why did I do that? Now you see the cyclone fence is right there. It's still here. Why did I drop this out? Because I felt like if I left the fence in here, that you might lose the ground breaking up, which was very, very important. So I made the conscious decision to drop. I established the background here, but here, and I could have put burst lines right there, and that kind of would have probably made it okay that the background wasn't there. But I purposely, from a storytelling standpoint, decided to leave the background out so that we would not lose what was happening here, because that leads right into the hand breaking out of the ground. And so, again, these are the kind of things that you think about when you have time to think about it. And it's something you really care about, which obviously this is a creator-owned book, so I really did care about it. And that allows you to do, maybe go that extra mile that on a monthly book you don't necessarily always get to do. Let's see. Let's take a look at this page. This is a very Wrightson inspired page. Anybody familiar with the Muck Monster, which is a Frankenstein story that Wrightson wrote and drew for Creepy Magazine? It was like a color insert in the normally black and white magazine. And there's a sequence where Dr. Frankenstein gets all frustrated with his creation, and he boils it up in acid or whatever, and then dumps it out of this cart into this drainage system that goes out into a graveyard, and then mingles with a dead body that's buried out there, and it raises up as the Frankenstein monster. It's really cool imagery. And I'll be honest with you, I stole that in this sequence where Garbage Man gets blown up, or his alter ego gets blown up here, and the remains sink down into this waste pile, or this whole area that was a garbage dump, waste dump, and then reforms with the soil and the things in the ground and becomes Garbage Man. So we're basically opening up with him breaking out of the ground, but then we circle back around to kind of show the right before he broke out kind of thing. And they got the hyper detailed, really well underlit, or single lighting source here to get those dark shadows and stuff. And this whole flashback sequence coming out of the syringe that he found stuck in his arm that sort of jogged his memory to remember this moment. But again, putting some thought into it that maybe sometimes, not saying, definitely not saying that my monthly books were hacked out. They weren't, but sometimes you're doing a monthly book in 3 weeks and you gotta move. And this again was one of those situations where I was moving at my own pace. I'll show you just a couple more pages, then we'll move on. But this was the title page for the second issue. Now this I had to change and turn this into Mr. Midnight from the nightclub when I published this through Dark Horse, because I had to remove all the DC references, but Batman was in this. But again, a very, very Eisner-esque, Stranko-esque kind of, you working the title into the artwork. This acted as a faux cover title page for this one sequence, this one story arc, excuse me. And then we go into the page one, which is the first page of the story. But then again, I worked in the title of the story once again into the artwork, Toxic Revenger. And so you could look at this and say, this is kind of confusing storytelling, Aaron. What are you doing here? But all this is simultaneous action right here. All of this is we start here. The guy's asking him a question. He's like, oh, I saw this monster or whatever. but Batman's listening to this outside the window while this is going on inside the apartment. So you follow the word balloons in this sequence, which are not on this artwork, obviously, that kind of take you through this page. But that's why I set it up the way I did, is because it's more simultaneous action. And then, of course, it ends with this panel here of Batman looking down and seeing that it was, in fact, a dent in the guy's car. So he did run into something or see something. And, of course, this, again, was changed to Mr. Midnight in the Dark Horse edition. And we'll look at just a couple more pages in this. I'm going to kind of do a little bit of this every week with different things. And I may finish up this whole Garbage Man miniseries before I move on to something else. Garbage Man gets exploded again. That's his origin, but then it happens to him again, which I thought, is this going to seem repetitive? But I kind of like the juxtaposition of him getting blown up and turned into Garbage Man, and then him getting blown up as Garbage Man, but still being Garbage Man. And so here he is plastered all over this tree, which is a highly detailed piece of work, as you can see. And again, great inking by Matt Ryan. He reforms down here in the second panel, and then he kind of looks to see that the cleanup crew is working, trying to fix the explosion that he caused in the previous issue. But it's stuff like this, you know, these type of panels that you go, yeah, that's right up there with some of the best stuff I've ever done. We'll take a look at. So he ends up facing, and you know, the great thing about this, and it's because I got to write it myself, was you get to put big splash pages in, money shots, and here he is facing off against this sort of werewolf type creature for a big splash page at the ending. So you open the story with him plastered against the tree like that, and then we end the issue with or the story, the issue with this kind of cliffhanger where he's faced against this werewolf type bear werewolf thing. Which leads into a nice little battle story in the next issue. But again, as you can see, I'm not skimping on the detail or how I put designed the pages and stuff. One thing I guess I should show you, since I made a point of it. This is the first page to this story. And I did this these were all 10-page stories. And there ended up being 12 different issues, but over 10 pages in each. And this, again, is how I worked the title of the story into, right here, Monster Hunt, into the artwork. And I don't know why I don't do this all the time, but I don't. It feels like a Garbage Man thing to me. And so I do it with every Garbage Man story I do. I work the title into the artwork, like I did with the backup story, the Garbage Man backup story in Wraith of God 2, Night of the Living Jed. That's worked into the ground in the opening splash page. And here it is again on this one called Monster Hunt. So there you go. So anyway, those are looking at some of the pages from Garbage Man this week. We'll look at some more next week, probably too. But it got me thinking when Ron Garney asked me that question about what was your favorite work. And then I said, well, it's still Garbage Man, and here's why. So there you go. That gives you some of my thought process, which actually then leads me right into our commercial break scheduled for today. So let's take a look at Wraith of God 3, Fear Hollow. Look at that, man. I am, what is it, $67 away from $84K on this project. I am 3.5 pages from being completed. Now, I know I said just last week I was like only 5 pages, but I spent 5 days last week babysitting, not doing anything but babysitting. So again, that's not your problem, and I get that. But so we're back on a regular schedule now, and I should be very close to having this story wrapped up by the end of this week or the very beginning of next week. So we are, not only is the light at the end of the tunnel here, the light is blaring and we can't even hardly see. We are so close to being done. So if you guys haven't backed this yet, and I'm not going to pretend that this book is not underperforming compared to the previous 2 Wraith of Gods, and we all have our ideas, and I know what they are of why some of these books are not doing as well as they used to. But I think there's a lot of reasons. But I'm still very thankful for everybody that's backed it and made it possible and all that kind of stuff. But I know there's a lot of people out there that haven't backed this book yet. And maybe you're waiting for it to get done. Maybe, whatever. But I wish you'd consider doing so, because I think this is going to be a really, really good book. And I don't want you to miss out on it. You have 4 cover options. Wraith of God 3. This is cover A, featuring the Headless Horseman, because the Wraith and Esther go after the Headless Horseman. And this is it's a pretty spooky story. I actually kind of proud of myself. But I almost scared myself writing it. But anyway, no, it's but I think you'll really like it. And there's the EC cover version variant there. That's your B option. C option, of course, is the every campaign I've done, with the exception of Kit Carter, which was a different format. I've had a Marvel kind of 1972 box cover variant, and I just love these. And so anyway, that's also available. That's your variant there. And then of course, Chris Stevens came in and contributed this just wonderfully beautiful painted cover. And so you have the 4 options there. You can get all 4 in the 4-pack, as you're looking at it right there on the right-hand column. Get all of them. That's what I would do, but you don't have to. That's the beauty of this. We're not, bending your arm to try and make you buy all 4 covers. If you don't want to, you can choose whichever one you like. Here's some of the interior art. I've been posting a little bit of the black and white here and there because Creative Faye was getting on my case about not posting enough interior work. And a lot of that's because I don't want to give too much away. There's a lot of segments in this story, and they're all sort of important. And it's like, how much do you want to give away? How much am I giving away by showing some, even though the dialogue's not there? So I want you guys to get this and have it be a fresh reading experience for you. But at the same time, there is some importance to promoting the book and using some of the artwork to do that. So I'm trying to strike a balance. We have t-shirts. These will be ending very, very soon. So you have the Bisley Wraith of God shirt, which is very cool. And of course, the now classic Keown Werewolf shirt, which is very cool. If you guys are rockers, and I know some of you are, these are the kind of shirts you wear to concerts right here, or conventions. Our stretch goals are basically trading cards at this point. And the original artwork to the stretch goals are all available right now for purchase. If you're an original art collector, you can get this Garbage Man artwork, which is the Empire Comics value stamp that's actually in the book. That's your first stretch goal. Second stretch goal is this sculpture trading card. She's part of the nightclub. And so we have a trading card with her. That's the original art to that. Then, of course, we have the original art to the trunk trading card, he's the Elephant Man from, not literally the Elephant Man, but the Elephant Guy from the same series, Nightclub, and or I should say same IP. There isn't a published series yet, but they've made appearances, and we have a backup story in Wraith of God 2 featuring these guys. So anyway, that original art for all that stuff is available. Wraith of God, the Wraith Nouveau print, signed and numbered, limited to 500. The Wraith of God Roughs Volume 3. This is layouts to the graphic novel, 48 pages of layouts, signed and numbered. I don't overprint on these. I overprint just enough to guard against any damaged books, but these are not available really after the campaign's over. So if you want one of these, make sure you make the order before the campaign closes. Nightclub shot glasses, part of your shot glass collection. This will be the 4th out of 6. Poker chips, these are the kind of heavy clay ones, very, very nice. Or you can get Wraith of God 1 or 2 in the campaign if you missed those out on those. But if you don't want to wait, if you don't want to wait to read back issues, you can jump over to my website, aaronlopresti.com. You can scroll over here to the Shop Now button. It takes you over to the store feature. If you go up here to the store pull down there, it says all products, prints, books. So you can get books, basically Wraith 1 or 2, Kit Carter, softcover, hardcover, still have some hardcovers available, still have a few Bisley covers available of Wraith of God 2. Still have some of the Tales of Suspense. And they were those are the lowest print runs, were the Bisley and the Tales of Suspense covers. I still have a few of those left. Some of the Graybeard Studio sketchbook ash can that I had in San Diego, still have some of those left. So a lot of good books here. There's prints. I don't know, did I put some new prints on here? I think I did. Yeah, the Flying Pigs, Look Up in the Sky, is an older print, but I found like some extra copies of them sitting in my flat files. So these are available. These were very popular when they first came out. And of course, the Mars print is brand new. You get Garbage Man. You got these older Kit Carter ones. Here's like the very first Kit Carter print I did called Space Hunt. Wet Grass is kind of a swamp thing, man thing sort of creature. Of course, the Planet Doom. I still have some copies of that Planet Doom movie poster available. So all sorts of good stuff here. Art for sale. Sketches always get put up there right away. So a lot of this stuff you'll have seen on like Graybeards. But I put them up here right after I do them. And so those are available. There's Smoking George Jetson, always a classic. So anyway, you can see there's a lot of stuff to look at. And so I would encourage you guys to check out the website, even if you just want to browse around, because there's a portfolio section and all kinds of stuff. You just want to look at art. And you'll find links in the description of this video that will take you to the Wraith of God 3 campaign or my website or both. So check it out if you haven't done so already. And I appreciate your patronage. Patronage? No, your patronage. You don't want to patronize anybody, but your patronage. Okay, so that is your commercial announcement for today. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. But now, what do you guys think about this? I just saw this, and Leg Kick referenced this early in the show. Now, this is from McFarlane Toys. This is the Jaws 50th Anniversary Movie Beanie X. And obviously, as the chick swimming, she does have a bikini on, so they didn't go naked with her like she is in the movie. But usually stuff like this becomes very valuable collector's items. Like, you can't even touch the Jaws play set that McFarlane did back, 10, 20 years ago, whenever he did it. Mint in box, you're looking at $350 or, depending on who's selling it, it's not cheap. And it's really hard to find, because the great thing about McFarlane's toys generally is they look really good, but the bad thing is they're often very fragile. My son just got lucky and picked up that an unopened Jaws play set from 20 years ago. But now here this comes out, and I usually buy everything Jaws that comes out. And I don't know that I'm in love with the shark, to be honest with you, on this. But I don't know if that's a good enough reason not to get this, because I can see this being, $150 item in 5 years or something, so it's kind of like, Pity Moss says Jaws. I like it, but in person it looks cheesy. Okay. Heart of Roy. I think that that's supposed to be looks. Yeah, I'm not in love with the shark, but then I think, if I don't get this a couple of years from now, this is going to be going for $150. I'm like, oh, I could have at least, flipped it and made a few bucks. But generally I buy this stuff and I don't flip it because I can't let go of it. Let's see. That's the same thing. That's the same. It's a little closer there. That looks better from that angle. It looks crooked. Why is the shark crooked? He's like leaning to the right. Or I guess his left, our right. But I don't know. This is one of those bizarre things that, you go, I didn't get it. And then you're like, it's worth a fortune later because you didn't get it. Which means if I get it, it'll be worthless. If I don't get it, it'll be worth a fortune. So here I am toiling over whether or not I should get this. Jonathan Ellis has said, no, buy two. Don't don't debate whether or not you should get it. Just get two. Okay. Tooch is in the chat. Hey, Billy. He says, in 2 weeks, we have the local Philharmonic doing a live concert concert with the screening. Oh, that would be so cool. I went and saw a screening of a movie. Was it Raiders? I think it was Raiders, where they had the live orchestra. It's amazing that I can't remember which movie it was, because it was a bunch of Spielberg stuff, or John Williams scores. And oh, you know what it was? It was a John Williams score concert, and they had depending on what score they were playing, they had some stuff behind it. But then I also think they had they were going to do Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, and I don't think we went and saw that because we just basically saw them play the best music from Raiders. But those are really cool. You can go to one of those movies where they're doing the score live. That's pretty freaking awesome. Henry Thrune with a wrench. Henry says, my policy is I only get things that excite me. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm very much, if you're buying toys and stuff for me, I'm a Frankenstein fan, but I won't buy every Frankenstein toy just because it's Frankenstein. If it doesn't look good, if it doesn't look like Karloff, if I don't think the likeness is good, I won't get it. And if I don't like the way the sculpt is, the way it looks, I won't get it. And like I said, I'm not thrilled with this shark. And I've got a Yahtzee game where the cup is a Jaws shark, and it looks pretty good. We got the Jaws game. I showed it on this show. They reissued the one from 1976, I think it was. It was Mattel or Hasbro or somebody did this shark game. And the shark looks horrible in the original one, but they reissued it, and the shark looks exactly like the shark from the movie. The sculpt is perfect. So I got that because it was good. And so I'm kind of on the border with this one. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I know too much to ever enjoy Jaws again. I don't know if I could ever. It's such a well-crafted movie by Spielberg that, I'm going to save it because I'm going to really get into a deep dive next week on Jaws. But there you go. So anyway, let's all give this a thought, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll see what my son says. He's a big Jaws collector as well. See what his vibe is on the whole thing. All righty. Let's have a Keebler and jump into some really groovy comic book cover art by my good friend Walter Simonson. I will recount the story of how I met Walter. I was at San Diego. This is back when it first moved over to the convention center, like the big convention center. And I was in Artist Alley. And back then, nobody was like yelling at you, screaming at you to get off the floor. I mean, they do that now, man. And maybe it's because I'm in a booth now, but it's like the second they close, man, those guys are rolling up carpet and they're breaking stuff down and they want you out of there so they can clean the floor up. But back then they had, the Artist Alley was all the way in the back of the convention center and it was on concrete floor. So I don't think they really had anything. They were working on the booths. They weren't back there bugging us. So you can kind of linger and walk around and, take your time. And there's guys with a beard comes walking towards me. This is the show's over on Sunday night. He has this really cool dinosaur shirt. And I just said to him, "Hey man, cool shirt." And he goes, "Thanks, I drew it." And I realized it was a Simonson drawing. So I said, "Well, this must be Walter Simonson." So then I introduced myself and we chatted. And in typical fashion, he didn't remember me the next time I saw him, but that's fine. I did run into him at a Seattle show, probably a year later, 8 months later. And then we were able to, Shelly and I were able to sit there and chat him up. And Louise was there, Wheezy, and, went to dinner with him and all that kind of stuff. And then, he invited me to come out and stay. And I was, so I was able to stay with him while I went to New York and tried to get work and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he was, both of them, Walt and Wheezy are just, I don't know if there's two nicer people in the industry, but love him dearly. And anyway, big fan of his work, as most of us are. So I'm going to go through, and again, these, we can all argue about what are the best covers. These are my favorite covers. Now, I love this cover because it's I saw the interior pages because I never read the Fantastic Four. Even when Simonson was doing it, because I was never a Fantastic Four guy for whatever strange reason. But he showed me the originals to this story. And it was some of the stuff he was doing storytelling wise. I remember him saying that something to the effect of, he's not sure it worked, but at least he was trying. And it was some really crazy storytelling stuff to kind of, because they were time traveling and there was all this kind of interdimensional stuff. And so he was trying to reflect that now. He was telling the story in the panels and all that kind of stuff. And this is like this is the cover that leads into that whole, into the time stream thing. And it's almost in a weird way for his FF run. This is maybe the most iconic cover he did. And so, hey, Brohawks in the chat. Thank you, David, for joining us. So anyway, I put this on here because I just, it's very dynamic. You got the whole team on there. Plus you got Iron Man and Thor sort of joining in. And I just think it's an important storyline. And just for some reason, this cover, I don't know, sticks out to me. And so there it is on my list. Okay. Here's another FF cover. This is probably kind of obvious, but I once told Walter, and I meant this, with the greatest amount of respect, and I think he took it that way, but I said he's kind of a new age Kirby, although I think he's a much more innovative storyteller than Jack Kirby ever was. But in just terms of his dynamics, very, very Kirby-esque. And I think this cover is very Kirby-esque. You got the big shot of the thing coming at you, baby. And then, of course, Dr. Doom in the background, just the eyes looking over the top of the thing. Pretty impactful. And that's what you want a cover to do, right? And this is a cover I would see and probably go, you know what? In fact, I do think, I wasn't reading FF, but I do think I bought this issue because I said, okay, this looks pretty cool. I got to see what's going on here. So there you go. Now, I always like this X Factor cover. Now, this is a series I was reading. Wheezy was writing it, and I'm such a nonconformist that I never read X-Men, right? Hated them. I shouldn't say I hated them, but I had no interest in reading X-Men, mainly because everybody was always telling me I should be reading X-Men. And so, well, if you're going to tell me to read it, I'm not going to. So when X Factor came out, and it was the original X-Men, I thought, you know what? This is almost kind of retro cool. I'm going to start reading this. And so I started buying X Factor. And like I said, Wheezy was writing it and doing a really good job. And so it was really fun to read. But then Walter took over issue 9 or 10 or something. I don't know. And then it really I was like, oh my gosh. So I got double Simonson here. And, and then this is one series I stayed with until Simonson left. But I just think this is a pretty impactful cover. You've got, is that Madeline Pryor, Goblin Queen or whatever, holding up the baby like that over the logo, and just a big centralized shot of her, all this chaos at her feet. You can see sort of the rest of the X Factor gang down here getting attacked by all these goblins. And so you've got the Beast down here. There's Scott. There's the Iceman. There's Archangel. And that's what's her face? Marvel Girl. God, what was her name? Jean Grey. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I really like this cover. I just think it's one of those things you go, ooh, I'm going to buy this, see what's happening inside. This one there's no reason why it should be on my favorites list, other than the fact that it's a big centralized figure and it grabs my attention. I like the figure. I like the energy, the power in this. The guy back there with a weird mohawk, laser blasting him from behind and all this kind of stuff. I just think it's, again, it makes you kind of go, ooh, maybe I should pick this up. It's a very sort of classical sort of Marvel high energy cover with a big figure that really sort of stands out. And of course, that yellow X on there helps too, but it's just a lot of stuff going on there that I really, really like. Henry Jeremick says, as much as I love Walter, I was not a fan of his Ben Grimm. To be fair, he is tough to draw. That is true. He is very, very difficult to draw. And that's why I pat myself on the back, because I draw the thing really well. But it is true. A lot of really good artists struggled drawing the thing. Anyway, that's another one of my favorite Simonson covers there. I'm sure this is on everybody's list. And oddly enough, I've loved this cover forever. I never bought the book until like last year, I think, is the first time I picked this up, and I still haven't read it. I flipped through it, but I have not read it. I know it's like sacrilege. But this tells only part of the story. But the front of this book, what I really like about, I love the pose of Dark Phoenix there. I really love that pose. You know, the other people running below her, that's just, you know, it's pretty standard superhero guys running at you. But that picture of Dark Phoenix there with the Phoenix behind her and that pose, that's just, it's really, and the motion in there and her hips, you know, this kind of curvature here, that it's just, it just puts a level of energy in this cover that you don't necessarily always see. Kind of makes it next level. Here's the entire thing as the wraparound, what it looked like. Because this was like prestige format or something. Yeah, well, it wasn't in the sense that it was square bound, but this was Baxter paper. I guess it got it sitting right here. I can just look. I mean, I may be completely off my rocker here, but no, I take it back. It was newsprint, but really heavy. I mean, it's newsprint, but it's like that really heavy newsprint. So it's not the cheap kind. There it is. So that's, but yeah, that may be probably top 3 iconic covers that Simonson's done. So obviously it's going to be on this list. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this one or not, but I remember, I think I was talking to, well, I think I actually was talking to Wheezy. She was telling me that she, I think she got Walter to do this cover before they were married, or maybe before they were even dating. I don't remember exactly. I shouldn't say that because that's probably not true. But I don't think they were married yet. I could be wrong. But anyway, I can't remember exactly how the story went. But I do know that she was telling me that, oh yeah, I got Walter to do this Conan cover. And I'm like, what? When was this? And then I went and found this cover and I went, God, this is cool. So you got Conan upside down there fighting this giant owl. It's just, well, I mean, the thing about Simonson is he is a great designer, right? And I'm not necessarily talking like costume design or anything like that, which he's fine. But I mean, the way he designs pictures, designs, you know, page layouts or covers. This is a well executed, well thought out cover. And so you go. That's Conan 135. I just think it's really cool. I don't own this, and I should. I'm going to have to pick this up because I just think it's cool. I mean, Conan fighting a giant owl, and then he drew it like this. Like the owl is like a monster or something. It's just really well conceptualized piece. Now, a lot of people are just going to go, what? I got a couple Thor color covers in here that I really like that are a little bit off the beaten path. This is one of them. I just like the design sense in this cover. This normally goes against what I would consider a good cover design because it's very busy, but at the same time, what he's done is he's taken this very busy action through here and isolated it by dropping the background out. So you just have this sort of like tower of goblins or whatever that him and Beta Ray Bill are fighting. And it runs diagonally across the cover there. I really like this. And I can't, I just think it's really well designed. If you look at look at this, Thor has the throat. This is like some sort of weird pterodactyl type thing or something. And then this creature getting smacked by Beta Ray Bill, and you just got all this sort of, it's almost Nino-esque in a weird way. Alex Nino, Filipino artist. It has that kind of a vibe to it. It's just, these creatures are so bizarre. And, but just the way that it, this diagonal line of mass that goes across this cover. I just really, really like this. I mean, because you can't go in every issue for as long as his run on Thor was. You can't just go in and draw a big shot of Thor every single cover. And this is very much a story cover, right? Where you're giving us information about something that's inside the comic, as opposed to just like an iconic shot of Thor or whatever. But there you go. That's one that's always stuck with me out of his run on Thor. And here's another one from Thor that most of you probably would not have on your list. But this is another just well-designed cover. Okay. So you got this monster. The camera's all the way down here at the tail of the monster. So we follow this monster all the way up like this, and then he comes down and looking right at Thor, who's really tiny on the cover. But this is freaking awesome. The design on this is just awesome. In some ways, it's very sort of Neil Adams-esque. And again, I don't mean to be, like diminishing what Walter brought here by saying, oh, it kind of reminds me of this or kind of reminds me of that. But the idea of shooting something or taking a shot, an angle that you really aren't expecting, right? On the ground behind this giant monster. And yet we're able to see the monster, and we're still able to see Thor, even though he's small back here. Most people, if they'd drawn this cover, we would have had Thor right here, big, and maybe the monster's, face right here. But instead, Walter takes this very out of the box, which we were talking about earlier, idea of how to set this and design this this up. So Thor is just like this tiny little thing down here, but yet you've got this whole mass that just leads your eye right to him. I just think this is really, really innovative and well done. Well done, Walter. Well done. Pity Moss says, I met the Simonsons with my niece, 13. She was taking pictures with legacies and reading their comics. Her mind was blown. That's cool when you have like a 13-year-old who knows who the Simonsons are. Like, what? Shelley had the privilege of meeting all these people without really knowing who they were. And then I would like tell her and she'd go, oh my gosh. How could I not put this on here? This is like one of my favorite. I know it's a lot of people's favorite Thor story arcs, but the whole Thor frog thing, it's just nuts. And the funny thing is, you say this on surface, you might say this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Thor is a frog. This story is so good. It's like he totally makes it work. And then of course Thor Frog has become, or Thunder Frog, whatever he's called, is like a character, that they've done. This wasn't just a throwaway. Maybe it was in Walter's mind, but it became something in the MCU. We've seen it in the Loki television show. They did a bust of it. This is like a legit character in the Marvel universe. And who would have thought, such a goofy idea for a story, and it was so well executed. And so I got to take in my opinion, the most iconic of the frog covers and put them on this list. I did get to see the interiors. I was staying at Walter's house And he had just stacks and stacks and stacks of all of his original art because he doesn't sell it. And so I was looking through the originals to this story. And I said, I said, Walter, you've got to please just sell me one of these Thor Frog pages. I said, I swear I'll never sell it. I'll keep it hanging in a frame in my house till the day I die. And he was like, no, I just don't sell my work. And I said, okay, then would you give it to me? That didn't work either, but I thought, it was worth a try. So I think Walter is one of the great storytellers in the history of comics and visual storytellers. And he's a good writer too. I mean, his stories are always really, really good and engaging to read. All right, here's it's either my favorite Simonson cover or my second favorite Simonson cover. I haven't decided. But come on, man. Are you kidding me? I wasn't even reading Batman when this came out. This was December of 83? Yeah. And I'm not even sure that, I only had heard of Simonson because of his work on Thor at this point. Because I was 19, I think. So I hadn't seen his Manhunter stuff. And because I was never a DC reader. I didn't pick up the Teen Titans X-Men because I was not an X-Men fan, nor was I a Teen Titans fan. But then I saw this and I was like, Judas Priest, that's a cool cover. I love that Joker. And the Batman's great, but that Joker, I love the Joker. I love his suit, that big old baggy suit. I love the, the energy and the curve here. Batman's got a hold of the jacket and and then putting the Batman logo down here because all the action was at the top of the page. Again, great design, great execution. I really like this. So there you go, $366. And this actually is worth a little bit of money simply because I think of the cover. Actually, there might be a Jason Todd appearance early Jason Todd appearance in here. But what a great cover. So there you go. That's one of my top favorite two. I'm getting word in the chat that Andy is starting his closeout stream for Lilith. I got plenty of time to go over there. We're almost done, sort of. All right, so here's my other either favorite or second favorite, depending on the day. Yeah, you guessed it. And we got a question of what Simonson's run on Thor was. Well, it started at 337 and it went for a while. I think he was on there for like 3 or 4 years. Now, he didn't draw it the whole time. He did for the first couple of years. And then Sal Buscema eventually took over with Simonson still writing. And I don't remember exactly what the numbers were. Marcus Killiger could probably post that. But come on. Thor was never cool until this happened. And what a great concept, and why it's shocking to me that Thor came out in 1963, I think. And we get to 1983, 20 years, and no one's ever no one was ever worthy enough to hold the hammer. And Simonson comes right out of the gate with this concept, and he's breaking the title logo. And you're like, who is this weird horse-looking bizarre creature that has the Thor's hammer? And this was immediately sold for 60 cents. Immediately it was up to, in the collector's market, $6, which doesn't seem like a lot now, but back then it was like, you're charging 10 times the cover price on this 3 months after it came out? What? This was a phenomenon. So starkly simple and yet so well designed and so well executed, so dynamic, so interesting. So, oh my gosh, I have to pick this book up. I don't even care about Thor, but I'm picking this up. So anyway, there you go. That is one of my top 2 Simonson covers. This probably is my favorite, although that Batman is, And I just found this, which I just want to show because I think it's interesting. This is the original art. And as you can see, you've got the art and then a piece of what appears to be tracing paper. I say it's tracing paper because it's yellowing, so it probably is tracing paper, where they pasted up the Thor logo after it was broken to pieces. So it's interesting. If you look at it, he just took the Thor logo, they did a stat of it, and then he cut it into pieces or cut pieces, and then you can, or whited out areas and drew in some bits breaking off, that type of thing. And then cut up the logo. So there you go. That's what the original looks like. So it has the overlay with the logo on it, which is kind of cool. I wonder what they were thinking in the office when he came in with this. I'd have been going, what? So yeah, very cool. The 80s really were kind of a second renaissance of kind of like the second silver age of comics. And this was right at the forefront. So there you go. Now that's all crazy and interesting stuff, but sorry, Henry, too late. You can find it though if you just Google Thor 337 cover Simonson, it should come up. But now, the most eagerly anticipated and yet irritating portion of the show. Yeah, it's that time again. All right. This guy claims that he caught a real Bigfoot on video. You guys tell me what you think. Right there. Now, the claims to making this authentic are that this guy never has posted nothing like this on his, his Instagram or his, no, what do they call it? What's that, TikTok or whatever. This is the only like Bigfoot video he's ever posted. So therefore, that means he must be telling the truth. However, yeah, see, all he does is put up videos of him playing basketball. But everybody wants to get in on the Bigfoot craze. I don't know. Looks to me like his buddy standing behind the tree, leaning out. That's what that looks like to me. But, like I said earlier in the show, I'm cynical. You guys don't have to trust me. Make your own decision. Is that Bigfoot? Captain Bitbo calls it out. Says that's a giant woodpecker, which is more believable in most cases than Bigfoot. What I find suspect here is that you don't get any sort of detail what we're looking at. Okay, look at this. Turns his head right there. Do you see the point on the top of his head like he's wearing a hood right there? Do you see that? Point on the top of his head. He's looking at us. He turns to the left, which is his right, and boink, point on the top of his head. Why does he have a point on the top of his head if he doesn't have a hoodie on? Just saying. And is Bigfoot really just, look at where this guy starts at. Look how far away he is. Why is Bigfoot hiding behind that tree? Does he think this guy's filming him? I'm just saying. Pity Ma says, this is the only part of the show my husband watches. Thank you. Appreciate it, though. We try to be a variety show. Like I said, it's very art centric, but Bigfoot is this, I guess, is performance art, right? So anyway, you guys judge what you want on that. You've got my conclusions. Okay, now what about this? What if you're out camp? Set the scene here. What if you're out in the woods, you're camping, got your tent, you wake up in the morning, or maybe I think according to this picture, it looks more like morning. You wake up in the morning, you look at that little, slit that has like a little screen window in your tent, and you see this. What does it all mean? You tell me. What does it all mean? This dude right there. Let's see. Okay, so as you can see, there's his eyes right there. There's his nose, his mouth, and his bald head. So this, when they get up close, it looks like Lon Chaney Sr. from Phantom of the Opera. So apparently Bigfoot, as you can see right there, bald, didn't do the comb over. I don't know. What are we looking at here? Is this just the guy you went camping with? Is it totally fake? Is it the real thing? I want to know what Pity Ma's husband thinks of this. That's what I want to know. It doesn't move. It's just staring. Captain Bippo says it's a prehistoric Homer Simpson. I like that. Paul Taylor says, wow. No, I don't know. Paul's a biologist, so he should have something to say about this, but I don't know if that means, wow, that's convincing, or wow, that's really bad. I don't know which it is. Captain Bippo says, now clearly a mask. There's Angela Chocolate's Curry in the house. There she is. Woohoo, Angela. Pantheon says, finally, the Bigfoot segment of the show. Now I can hit the like button. Okay. Ms. Stippling thought that was a bear cub hugging a tree, the previous one, not this. Spambot says, it really does just look like a guy. Gollum Wolf, it's just a guy with unfortunate genetics. Broke Foot Mountain, says Corey Landis. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that we can really take too much from that. All right. Now, let me set this one up. This is allegedly a video taken by a Bigfoot researcher, a cryptozoologist, someone who's known for searching out Bigfoot and posting videos about it, right? So would that make this more likely to be authentic or more likely to be a hoax? I don't know. But will you tell me? See, we see Bigfoot running through his garden or whatever. There's a gate right here, a fence right here. And here he comes. Now watch him step over the fence. This looks like a Charlie Chaplin movie. I don't know if they sped it up or what, but is that how a wild caveman beast animal would climb over a fence? Like that? That's how you and I would climb over a fence, isn't it? Wouldn't the Bigfoot thing just jump on it or tear through it or something? Eric Wart says, Aaron, Bigfoot is like Santa. You just have to believe. Angela Curry, it's a guy. Smackdown says not hairy enough. He just robbed the guy's house. That's what I'm thinking. I'm waiting for the Benny Hill theme, says a silent spirit. Let's take a look. This is just, we've really got to examine this and break it down. Now, according to the guy that posted this, he also posted a picture of him standing by this fence, right? And we have to take his word for it since this is so blurry, we can't tell what the fence actually looks like. But he shot a clear picture of himself standing by this fence, okay? So this fence is like right along here. And the guy's standing by it, and his head is about right here. And he looks like a short, dumpy kind of guy, but he claims to be 6 foot tall. And I'm looking at him going, that dude's not 6 foot tall. But anyway, so what he's claiming here then is, if this, look at how big, if he's, hang on a second here. If the guy is 6 foot tall, and here's the fence right here again. If the guy's head is about right here on the fence, and he's 6 foot tall, how big is this guy? This guy's like 8 feet tall or something. At least that's what he's trying to say. And then, you know, him stepping over the fence. But again, this is so blurry, this doesn't prove anything. And the way this guy's moving right here, that looks like a pant leg to me. Woo, look at that dance move. Woo, or a karate. That's like a Bruce Lee move. Right there. Yeah. So anyway, why is he running back and forth like this? It's at high speed and man. Thomas Ivanko looks sus. Yeah, I would agree with that. Pity Ma's husband can't stop laughing at the fence Bigfoot. Well, how do you think the fence Bigfoot feels about that? That you're mocking him like that, Pity Ma's husband. But I'll join you with it. That's got to do better than that, folks. And that's a Bigfoot expert, and that's why you can't trust these people. That's why cryptozoologists are not real scientists, folks. Of course, you can't trust real scientists anymore either. So, you know, who are we kidding, right? So anyway, now I'm going to show you this, and then I tell you the secret behind it after I show it to you. This is Alabama Bigfoot, allegedly. These are still photos of Alabama Bigfoot. So we got this one, and pretty compelling. We got this one, looks a little on the thin side. Can't really tell much. Then we got this one again to make it seem like there's more pictures than there actually are. Okay, so these pictures were put out there. It grabbed the attention of, you know, that show Finding Bigfoot, which is what inspired the name for this segment, Not Finding Bigfoot. So the Finding Bigfoot people went out to this area to research. And apparently there's maybe some footprints or something that they found, or I don't know. This was picked up by the local news in this town in Alabama, wherever this occurred. And so it got a lot of attention. And then guess what? It came out that the whole thing was a hoax. It was an April Fool's joke. And you want to know why I'm cynical? So whoever did this pushed and I got to give them credit, they pushed the hoax to a point where you had a television crew and news stations investigating this. And then, of course, it turned out to be a hoax. So it just goes to show you if you live anywhere near the woods or have access to the woods, if you go out there, take a blurry photo of something, claim it's Bigfoot, you got instant credibility. I'm not sure what it is about these photos that would make a television show go out and think, oh, this one's legit. But of course, it wasn't. And there you go. Thomas Ivanko says this looks more legit than the previous video. Yeah, you might be onto something there. Corey Landis says he's working on a comic called Not Wraith of God. Paul Taylor says, doesn't being cynical go hand in hand with being grumpy? Well, I think I think my cynicism actually makes me grumpy. Or does being grumpy make you cynical? God, they may be like interwoven, interlocked. It's like the chicken and the egg, you know? Gollum Wolf says, I respect that level of trolling. So do I. And the thing I like about it is, this is the fun part for me, is when you fool all these people and then you come out and basically call them all a bunch of idiots. Say, you idiots, is fake. Oh my goodness, I love it. So there you go. That's all I've got for this week on the Bigfoot Network. But anyway, I want to encourage everybody to get over onto Andy's stream and close out Lilith with him. I'm going to go to see Jaws, so no offense to Andy, but if he's still buzzing, I will stop in after the movie. I want to encourage everybody to also check out Wraith of God 3 Fear Hollow. You'll find a link in the description of this video. Also, check out my website, just for fun. There's stuff you can buy on there. There's stuff you can look at. So again, you'll find a link in the description of this video. And there you have it. Pity Moss says, Aaron, you have a new grumpy, cynical fan. Thank you. Can't get enough of those. So thanks all you guys. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the commentary. Thank you for showing up and appreciate it very much. I couldn't do the show without you. You know that. Love you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you right here next week on Aaron Live.